This is an interview at the Comfort Inn, Brooklyn, New York. It is March 18th, 2003, approximately 3:30 p.m. The interviewers are Mike Russert and Wayne Clark. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
My full name is Jeanne Kahn Paul. Date of birth, 8/29/18. Anything else you want to know?
Place of birth, please.
Oh, New York City.
All right. What kind of educational background did you have prior to entering service?
I was a high school graduate. That's as far as I...
Okay.
Wait a minute. High school graduate and then nurses training.
Okay. Do you remember where you were and what your reaction was to the news about Pearl Harbor?
That's a difficult question because I was, let's see, Pearl Harbor was what year?
1941, December
41, so I was out of
41.
training 2 years. I probably hadn't made up my mind as to what I wanted to do at that point. I was shocked like everybody else. But that's the most I can tell you about it.
Okay. Why did you decide to join the Army Nurse Corps?
I wanted to get out of town. And I was looking for something a little bit more exciting than just working in a hospital. I originally had applied for a job in Peru, and my father said, no way. This was a copper corporation or something in Peru. So I sat on it for a while, and then when this came up, when they were asking for nurses, I said, this is for me.
So you had never left the New York area prior to that?
Not really, no.
And you just wanted to get out?
Yeah, I wanted to get out.
Okay. Could you tell us about when did you go into the Army Nurse Corps?
I went in 42, I believe. I got out in 40, let's see, I went in 42 or 43, I got out in 46, as I know.
Okay, well, where did you go, where did you sign up for this, and where did you go for training?
I first went to Camp Kilmer, that's where I was assigned, which is a port of embarkation. However, I went there on limited service because I'm a little bit cockeyed, and at that time they were only taking people who were really healthy. So I stayed there on limited service for about a year, year and a half, something like that. I don't have the exact dates unless you need them.
No, that's...
And then it got to the point where, as this chapter said, they needed warm bodies almost any place. So I went overseas. I wanted to go overseas, and I was nagging them until they would take me.
What kind of unit were you assigned to?
An evacuation hospital.
Okay, and did you have any specialty as a nurse?
Not at that time, no. But when I got into the hospital, after a while, I worked in the OR.
Okay, so you became a surgical nurse?
Yeah.
All right. Did you have any training for that? Specialized training for that, or?
Nothing except what we had in training in the nurses' training school.
Now, what unit were you assigned to? What?
It was the 106th Evac.
Okay, where did you go from the United States? Where did you?
We went to England. We
and how did you get across to England?
on a big boat.
Okay.
We went to, let's see, we landed in Liverpool and they took us right down to Birmingham, where we were billeted for a few months, I think. I've lost track of that. I mean,
no, that's fine.
And then gradually we worked our way down to the south of England. And right after the invasion, actually, we had got to France D+42. That was after the invasion. But where we were billeted, we could hear the gliders going overhead all the time.
Before you went over to France, did your unit receive any of the casualties from the landings?
No. No, we had a ball.
What was your life like in England while you were there?
It was fairly quiet. We didn't, as I recall, we didn't have any special training. I guess it was assumed that we had all the training that was necessary, because the unit that I joined had already been in training in Tennessee, so I joined up, sort of at the end. We sort of just goofed off.
Now, were you commissioned as an officer
Oh
prior
yes,
to
yeah,
going
I was
over?
a second lieutenant. You go in as a second lieutenant.
Now, when you went into France on D-Day plus 42,
Yeah.
where were you assigned and what kind of work did you do there?
Our unit stayed together. They started setting up our hospitals pretty soon after we landed. I'm not quite sure. I think probably our first town was Chalon-sur-Marne. I believe so, and we went from one cow pasture to the next one. Where we just sort of followed the lines.
Now, what was the makeup of your unit?
There were, I think, 40-odd nurses, about 40 doctors, somewhere around that, and enlisted men, I guess 100 or so, I don't remember.
100 enlisted men?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Might have been fewer, I don't remember.
And were you set up in large tents?
Yeah, we lived in pyramidal tents. 5 or 6 of us in a tent with a stove in the middle.
So how often did you move, do you recall? You stayed pretty much behind the lines and moved forward?
We moved fairly frequently. Sometimes we would be in one place for a couple of weeks. Sometimes we would be there only 1 week. We never knew. They told us. And the men would take our tents and set them up in the next place.
Did you have your own trucks with you, or what Army unit were you assigned with?
It was First Army. Until we got into Germany, and then we became part of Third Army with General Patton.
Oh, okay. Did you have your own trucks to carry your gear around with you, or were they?
We rode in these big 6x6s.
Did they have the red crosses on them?
What?
Did they have the red crosses on them?
I think so. I hope so. Yes, I think they do. I think most of our ambulances, everything else, had Red Crosses on them.
Were your tents marked that way too? Did you have red crosses on the?
I don't know, actually.
Okay. So you followed the front through France into Germany also?
France, Germany, Austria. Although in Austria we weren't set up as a hospital. We were just resting there, I guess, on a lovely spot. And then Czechoslovakia. And when the war ended, we were in Marienbad in Czechoslovakia.
Did you handle strictly wounded, or did you handle others that were?
Mostly wounded. Those are the ones who came to us because I suspected the ones who were simply sick, not wounded, went to the station hospitals.
Could you describe the work in a surgical unit, if you could?
It was probably better in here. We operated on anybody who came in. Did you ever watch MASH?
Yes.
It's like that. It was like that. We worked in tents, and at the very beginning, I think most of our patients did very well because they were young and they were healthy, and they hadn't been in too long. We assisted the doctors, and all you did was change your clothes and change your gown and go to the next table, because they weren't in separate units or anything like that. And we had enlisted men working with us who were fantastic. They were, medical aides or whatever they called them at that time, kids who had never had any training, but they learned somehow, and I can't believe how much they learned and how well they did.
Did you have enough medical supplies and,
Yeah.
and medicines?
I think so. I don't recall at any point being short of supplies.
Now, was your unit
If we did, they didn't tell us.
was your unit involved during the Battle of the Bulge?
Yes.
Um,
At that time, we were in Thionville, which is that's right on the Moselle River, on the border between Germany and France, and we were there over the whole Christmas, New Year's period, and we were getting patients in from there. That was the first building we were ever in.
oh, I was just going to ask you how you kept the tents warm during that
No,
time.
we were in a building that had been a school, I think, at one time. So we each had our little cubicle. Do you mind if I use your bathroom?
Oh, no, go ahead. How would you say your, you mentioned the MASH television series. How was your unit compared to that? Was there...
Well, they were a little closer, I think. They were, MASH was a mobile surgical hospital. We were an evacuation hospital, so I guess we were the next in line.
Okay, so those that were wounded went to a MASH unit, and then they would be brought to your unit.
Well, I don't know, that was Korea. So
Yeah,
they
well,
had,
yes,
so they had
I was wondering if
slightly
they
different
had...
setup, I think.
Did they have something like that, or you were the
Well,
first unit?
I think, let's see, there were the medical, the medics, and then there was something between us and the front. I don't remember what it was.
So you received
We got wounded
casualties
by
that
it.
had already been somewhat taken care
A
of,
little bit, yes.
and then they were into your unit
Yeah.
for surgical purposes.
Yeah, they got emergency care, and then they came to us because we had to remove shell fragments and things like that from them.
When you went into Czechoslovakia, I was just curious, when I saw that you were with the Third Army, were you anywhere near when Patton was killed? Were you still there when he was killed?
I don't remember. I wasn't there very long because when our unit went to Czechoslovakia, at that point they were going to be assigned to the Pacific. And, well, you haven't read my book, but at that point the man that I was sort of engaged to decided this is enough, he's tired of chasing me all over Europe.
Did you see Patton at all ever?
I don't think so. Saw Ingrid Bergman because my husband was with what they call a special service unit, which they brought in all the entertainers and people like that, musicians, keeps soldiers happy.
So you got to see a few USO shows?
Yeah.
Could you tell us about some of those?
Oh, the shows I don't remember seeing any of those. I just remember seeing Ingrid Bergman come in the morning for breakfast, and she was gorgeous.
Okay. Now you received. I noticed you received 4 Bronze Stars.
Our whole unit did. This is from the what do they call it now? I didn't get any personally. This is all from the places where we were. Yeah.
What was I going to mention? There's another question. Did you have anything?
I can't think of anything.
Okay. When you returned to the United States, did you keep in contact with anyone that was with you in your unit?
For a couple of years, my unit was having reunions, and then we sort of lost a few of them, and most of them were from out of town anyway, so I guess it wasn't very convenient for them to come into New York. I kept in contact with a few of them for a while, and then sort of got notices that this one had died and another one had died. And we're all getting older.
Yes. Did you ever join any veterans organizations?
No,
at
I
all?
didn't.
Did you make use of the GI Bill when you returned?
Yes, when I came home, I went to NYU for a couple of years and got my pencils and notebooks and tuition and even a little bit of money, I think.
Were you eligible for the 5220 club? Do you know? It was like an unemployment insurance, $20 a week for 52 weeks after the war.
I don't think so. I don't know if I was eligible.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
anything
didn't
about
know
it.
if you ever used it. How about telling us about this person here?
Who? Oh, please.
I noticed it says those were both you thought taken in 1945.
Yeah.
Could you hold them up to the camera?
Oh, please. That's kind of hard. That's
Nothing wrong with those pictures.
No.
That's like showing Elizabeth Taylor now.
No, not at all. So, do you remember at all where those were taken?
One was taken in Germany. I think this one was taken in Germany. This one, I think, was probably taken in Kilmer while I was still there because it's a formal uniform, and we didn't wear formal uniforms.
Now, this book, you kept referring to this book. Could you
Yeah.
hold that up? Now, you have a chapter in that book, you
Yeah.
said. Okay, there's an interesting picture in there, too.
Oh, yes, sitting in front of in our bathing suits, which we made.
Could you tell us, well, if you hold it up to the
Yeah,
camera.
I can zoom in on it.
Oh, yes,
Now,
these bathing suits were made from, I think it was probably tablecloths that we got from a German warehouse or something.
Okay.
And I love to sew, so I made myself a bathing suit. Even used it to ride on the Rhine.
Now, why did you call this chapter of yours a warm body for France?
I didn't. They did.
Oh, why do you
No,
think?
I think I told you that at the point where I thought I was going to be at Camp Kilmer forever because I was on limited service, they decided that they needed nurses more badly, worse than that, so they would take anything that was warm.
Okay. Did you bring something else to show
No,
us?
this was just the material that you
okay.
guys had sent me.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much
Yes, thank you.
for
That's
your
it?
interview.
But my husband was still in Germany with this special service company, and he said he wanted to get married. And that was the only place he was set up in Regensburg. So they brought me over there. We got married there.
Now, he was an officer also?
He was an officer, and he had sort of leapfrog. We had leapfrogged one another all the way across France and Germany.
Uh-huh.
It was very convenient because he, as an officer, he could always tell where my unit was stationed, so he could follow me and he'd come in out of his big truck, and there he was.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
that's
Thank
it.
you. Yeah.